Well, good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Sunday Night Sports Guys. We are glad to be back for another week of sports talk, along with my good friends Troy McKenzie and Troy Blades. We are the Sunday Night Sports Guys, and another week of sports has passed us by. This past weekend was the Thanksgiving weekend, so from us to you guys all out there, we hope that you sincerely had a great time with family and friends, made a lot of great memories over the holidays. For Karen and I, it was definitely our most busiest Thanksgiving we've ever done. 3 different places and 3 different days, so we were definitely out and about. So, Bladesy and Mac, how was your guys' Thanksgiving?
I got to have turkey twice, so that's always a good thing. And 9 hours of driving, taking the kids back to university yesterday. Got home decent hours, so it was all in all a good weekend. Turkey sandwiches for the next few days. Life is good.
How those things in Nova Scotia, Blades?
Yeah, well, we did our second straight year. We went to Keji with the gang, and for Saturday night anyway. Had a gang there camping at Keji, and the kids do some trick-or-treating there on Thanksgiving weekend, I guess, on Thanksgiving Saturday night, and then headed down to the Hawk for some ham down at my parents', and then back to Amber's family on the way back home, so for turkey the next day. So we did a whirlwind tour of southern Nova Scotia, I guess, but we're all back in one piece, so that's good. About 5 to 10 towns together.
For sure. I've been doing the Costco diet and had got myself down to 222. I think I might have put 4 or 5 pounds of that back this weekend, but it's all good. You only live once, and part of that is good eating, so I'm definitely not going to back off of that anytime soon. So, gentlemen, week number 6 is in the books with the National Football League, and definitely an interesting weekend to say the least. And as usual is our tradition to start here on the Sunday Night Sports Guys, aside from the week that the Patriots are on their bye, we will jump into last Thursday's game against the New York Giants. For the second week in a row, the Patriots had offensive issues. It seemed like in the first half, trying to find their way to, kind of put the score where everybody thought it was going to be. Defensively, they've, still maintained what they've started right from the start. But are there things to be concerned with still moving forward for the Patriots? Mac, I'll let you start off.
At the risk of sounding like a broken record, the offense, again, we have the ability to work through some of the kinks, but the offensive line, work in progress. I think we miss Isaiah Wynn more than maybe we thought we would, and the kind of scrap heap pickups that they've made haven't come through. And I can't remember if Blasey said this last week or not. Maybe I have had more patience with Sony Michel than others, but I'm starting to lose that. He seems to very rarely be able to elude that first guy. Always is seemingly getting hit early. And then you watch some of these other games where guys are just firing through the holes. I can't decide if it's Michel or the offensive line. It's probably a combination of the two. And I think part of me was hoping we'd get a little glimpse of Damian Harris, the first rounder from this year, but looks like he's relegated to watching these early games. So I'm not. The defense continues to just be like Belichick is afforded to take risks and work things out now, and I just have to hope that that'll pay off later and this defense keeps going strong.
Right on. Well, one of the interesting things that came out of that game, Bladesy, was after the game, in which, for the first time, from what everything in the media tells us, that Belichick gave Brady the game ball. And surprisingly, he doesn't get a lot of those game balls. But on this occasion, on Thursday night, was a big night personally, statistically for Brady, in which he surpassed Peyton Manning for the all-time yardage. I think it was the yardage record that he surpassed.
Well, I think he's ahead of Manning, but he's still behind Breeze.
Okay. I don't know if Brady just froze up on us there. You hear us, Troy?
I'm having troubles. I'm having troubles.
Did you hear me?
No, froze up here.
Did you hear what I asked?
You can hear me?
Yeah.
What are you talking about, Brady?
Yeah, we was talking about after the game where Belichick gave Brady the game ball and stuff, and when you see the footage of that particular moment, it seemed like a very awkward thing. I don't think Brady was expecting that, and the way he talked about it after the fact, but how it was a kind thing that Bill had done. Significant night for Brady to surpass that. Are you starting to see any breakdown in this guy at all? I know you're as big a rooter as there is for Brady, but are we starting to see glimpses of him slowing down some? Do you think? Oh, I think we're having problems on his end.
I don't think so, Duke. I mean, if there weren't the other thing, if the line was holding up and he was still missing throws, I might say yes, but there's enough other stuff going on around him on that offense. I mean, they said after the game that one personnel set they had to stay in because Gordon was hurt and they were down this and that, and they're just like any quarterback is going a little less than themselves when they're forced into a situation like that. So it's an easy question to ask, but I still have this gut feeling that Wynn comes back, the line gets fixed. If N'Keal Harry can come back this week and actually contribute on offense, whatever Bill does trade deadline, I think we'll see the Brady we're used to.
Yeah. You know, one of the things that came to me last night when I was watching the Lions-Green Bay game, we'll get into that in a little bit, was watching Prater kicking field goals. And there's a part of me that sat and wondered if things don't click with Nugent, which is iffy still. The kicking position is something that Belichick takes a lot of value. Special teams has always been a marquee thing of his tenure in New England. And is it out of the realm of possibility, especially with seeing the Lions lost last night, in 2 weeks' time, that Bill goes after that guy in Detroit? You think that's a possibility at all, or am I just grasping there?
I think anything's possible with Trader Bill, and I don't think Nugent is. I hate the idea that 45-yard field goals are something that he's going to have to think about whether he should do or not. Whether it's Prater or something else, I mean, it wouldn't shock me to see a 7th-round pick get sent somewhere for a kicker. Look at those teams that are maybe not the Lions because they're 2-1. They're still right there as far as the NFC is playout. Like they're totally still in it. But I'd start looking at those. Like what's Cincinnati's kicker like? What's some of these other teams that are really out of it? Like I wouldn't be surprised by that because I don't think Nugent or the young guy in the practice squad are going to instill any confidence in Bill for that 48-yard field goal late in the game.
Yeah. So Blades, are you back with us?
I think so for now. We'll try it. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you well. I see you well. You don't look froze up. So anyway, what we'll do, we'll let you have the floor. What was your takeaway from last Thursday night with the Pats game?
Oh well, obviously we were making light of it as we sometimes do. But I think the Giants showed us something. I think that kid Jones is, he made some nice throws. I mean, obviously he's under pressure a lot, but there were some nice throws there, and I think there's definitely something there with that kid. But I know you kind of want to talk about Brady, obviously, and it wasn't probably his greatest. Wasn't his greatest night, that's for sure. But in the middle of that thing, after he had a pretty crappy first quarter, the sense.
Nope.
Did I cut out again?
Yeah, I can hear you. You still there? Well, he's having a bit of an issue on that end. Okay. Well, Mac, look like we're going to wing it till he gets figured out on that side.
Oh, good.
So anyhow, the bottom line is you're 6-0, which is better than what actually they should be 6-0 at this point in time. I mean, are they gonna run the table? That's the big question right now. I still don't think they can run the table. They really haven't been fully tested yet, so we don't know exactly what we have 100%. But they are looking. They seem to be able to. They struggle in the first of it, and I have to wonder for Brady. I mean, you look at what he's surrounded with outside of Edelman. I mean, he doesn't have anybody with him that he's overly familiar with a whole lot. So you back with us, Troy?
We'll try it again, I guess. Yeah. I don't know what's going on, man.
Yeah. So just finish up. Just conclude. Go along with your thought that you had there earlier.
All right, where did I cut out? About the 15 straight completions?
Come about like that, yeah.
All right. Well, yeah, he had 15 straight completions. I mean, I think right now, like you said, dude, it's always with Brady early on. I mean, he might make some bad throws just because he's trying to get rid of it, especially against these teams that, he knows he can just turn it on and beat these teams, and that's what he's done. But obviously there hasn't been, every throw isn't perfect, and but like you said, I mean, Edelman still, I don't think he's 100%. I think when he got hurt a couple weeks ago, he's still kind of, still a little bit, going around gingerly a little bit, and Josh Gordon got hurt the other day, so it's a work in progress. I mean, man, dude, don't be talking about running the table yet. Holy smokes, a long ways to go.
No, I'm not talking about it.
Yeah, no. I mean, there's no. I mean, I know we had some fun with Link and Craig and those guys on there the other day, but yeah, I mean, there's no doubt that they did get lucky and have a pretty easy schedule here. Start off the season, but with Darnold next week, with Darnold back, I mean, they look good yesterday on Sunday, the Jets, and then you got the Browns and at Ravens. We still got Houston, Kansas City. In Philadelphia and the Cowboys. So there's some tough teams coming up. So see what they're made for sure. Yeah.
Right on. I was saying to T-Mac earlier, I don't know if you got cut out or heard us, but I had made the proposition of whether, like watching last night with the Lions game and with Matt Patricia there as head coach, is it out of the realm of possibility for, Bill to make a play for Prater, the kicker?
And he looked good last night, Prater, didn't he? But
he did, yeah.
I can't imagine, man, how many times do kickers get traded in the middle of the season, especially good ones?
Patriots have only had two kickers in the Belichick-Brady era. Can you imagine?
There you go. But
That's why
I don't think the Lions are getting rid of Prater because I mean, they've had, if it wasn't for some bad luck, right, they could be 5-1 or 4-1 right now. So they're looking pretty good. I don't think they're going to be trading that good kicker anytime soon.
Well,
that's what I look at some of those weaker teams. It'd be just like Bill to trade for a kicker.
Well, you never know. Oh yeah, I mean, maybe. I mean, Nugent doesn't give you a whole sense of confidence. That's for sure. They're not trying 43-yard field goals, and that's not a good thing. You get away with it against the Giants, but it's probably not going to get away with that against some better teams. So
no, for sure. All right, well, contrary to popular belief, there are other teams that do play in the National Football League, and so we will move along to a couple other games that you guys have watched, or I'll start with mine. Sorry, looking at my screen, watching my graphics as we go. I was only able to really catch highlights of the Niners and Rams game, and this was a game that was supposed to be the real test for the Niners. They'd come in at 4-0. A bit of hype kind of coming along with them. Not a great schedule, kind of like the Patriots, not strong there at all. But this was their first real big challenge, and a divisional game, which made a big deal if they could get the win. And they come out of Los Angeles not only with a win, but a pretty solid, convincing win. Garoppolo starting to look like the guy that they had traded for and hoped he was going to do. And what I took from Jimmy G is that, if he can manage the game, I think for them, if they can manage the game, that defense looks pretty stellar, I'll tell you that, after two real good efforts. One against Cleveland last week in Monday night. Kind of hard to give a lot to them for it, but still you got to play your game. And the defense was solid in that one. and they come up big again on Sunday against the Rams on the road in Los Angeles. So things are definitely looking up for the 49ers. I think the big question is you're now looking at a Rams team that has 3 straight losses, are 3-3. What do you guys think? Do you think there's reason for concern in with the Rams? Has the league figured them out, Blazy?
I think if they had it do over again, they might not give Jared Goff that big contract all of a sudden right now. I mean, that guy has looked horrible. Maybe Belichick figured him out, and everybody. I don't totally believe that everybody, because if that was the case, everybody would copy old Belichick on everything. But they're just out of sorts. Goff just looks terrible. I mean, they went down the field the first drive and scored a touchdown. They looked great, and then after that, really couldn't get anything going. They got stopped on 3rd and 4th and goal at the 1 when it was tied 7-7, which was really a big turning point in the game. But they're definitely won their first 3 and then lost their next 3 in a row. They don't look very good, and they're in a very tough division. Obviously, I mean that's a big loss right there in division. Certainly, I thought that would be one that might put the 49ers in the loss column, but I was wrong, like a lot of times are. So anyway, we'll see. I mean, I got to give 49ers credit on that. They went in there and got the job done. So, but the Rams, there's definitely some concern there. Their defense is okay, but still not. I mean, they were okay yesterday or Sunday, but they've had their times. I mean, they gave up 55 to Tampa Bay. Still can't get over that. So at home, so I don't know, something going on there for sure.
For sure. So Mac, what do you think? Has the Niners done enough to convince you that they're now a legit contender in the NFC, or do you think that the Seattle game will be the true test for them?
Oh, it'll be another good test. Though the Niners, I mean, is the defense like that? The 4-headed running back, as long as it's working, it's great until it doesn't work. So there haven't been many teams that have had split carries between 4 backs. So we'll have to see what that works out. I think the Rams thing, though, we're forgetting just how Todd Gurley is. And he wasn't there. Todd Gurley was a guy that caught balls as well as ran them. So I'd like to see the Rams offense with a healthy Todd Gurley. And I'll give them a benefit of the doubt a little more than see what happens when Gurley comes back. But no, the 49ers are doing everything you'd want them to do. They've got a surprising young defense. The quarterback, I think the game manager comment, Duke, was key. Like, he doesn't have to be the gunslinger. And no-name receivers with a great tight end. Steady, consistent running, and a great defense. That'll win you lots of games.
Sounds like a blueprint we've seen somewhere before, if you ask me.
Yep.
Pretty much. So, anyhow, the Niners are a bit of the story in the NFC, while the Rams are a story probably not for the same reason. So, moving along, we will ask Mac to step up, and he's going to tell us a little bit about what he saw with that Texans-Chiefs game. And here's a team that little by little each week, Mac, the Chiefs, they're slowly falling out of grace here. They were the elite of the league. They were in the top 5 power rankings the past 2 weeks. We'll wait and see if they make it again this week. But what's going on in Kansas City?
Mahomes' ankle and really crappy defense. It was fun to have my son home from university and watch the game with him. Both of us hating the Chiefs as much as possible, and he really likes Deshaun Watson as a fantasy quarterback, so you kind of got all of that. But the pass running game isn't awesome, and they shredded them. Carlos Hyde, who's been on the scrap heap 2 or 3 times, shredded them. The defense, they brought in Jim Schwartz, traded for Duke's favorite defensive lineman Clark. Got him in there to fix things, and they're still the same old defense. So if Mahomes looked great at the beginning, and then once it looked like he tweaked his ankle again, he's not the same guy. So as a Pats fan, I love it. They can't lose enough games, and Tyreek Hill is back. He's a guy that's easy to hate, kind of like Marcus Peters in the former Ram, now Raven. But the offense will be fine. But I should say that because the running game, LaShawn McCoy and these Williams, whatever those no-name other guys go with them, they're not doing what Kareem Hunt and the others were doing as well. So I think the Chiefs could be in not trouble when you've got an offense like that, but boy, that defense is like a sieve. The other interesting thing about the game, which I love it when it happens in games that don't involve the Patriots, was the pass interference call that got seemingly overturned, and the whole controversy of whether one referees heard something in his earpiece or not, should it have been replayable or not. I'm glad that the experts came out and said it's a judgment call, and they decided the ball was in the air, that type of stuff. And the fact that it went against the Chiefs was just fine with me. But that almost was as big of a story as Mahomes' ankle after the game.
Right. So, Blasey, I don't know if you're probably like me. You probably caught some of the highlights sort of thing of it, especially having a busy weekend in that. You got a bunch of teams now, 4-2. Texans along with that as a result of getting this win in KC. So that bunch of teams, the Ravens, Texans, Chiefs, what do we got on the other side of the ledger? Minnesota Vikings. Got a whole bunch of teams 4-2. Do you see Kansas City being able to come out of that mess that's there, or is this just a little bleep on the radar sort of thing, or are they going to turn this thing around?
Well, I mean, the main thing about that is because Kansas City's in the AFC, so they really don't have to, they don't have to go 13-3, 12-4 right now, especially in that AFC West with the Chargers, definitely going. I don't know what's going on with the Chargers, but they got some injuries as well. But Kansas City still got a lead in that division. The Raiders are over 500, but obviously that's probably not going to last very long. So I think Kansas City, they have plenty of time. But I mean, this is good as a Patriots fan. Don't get me wrong. But, definitely got a little cushion there for that home field advantage. I mean, right now the Patriots and the Bills are the only two teams with less than 2 losses. So. How about that for the AFC East and how shitty the AFC East is. So, but no, I mean, the Texans are a good team. I've liked the Texans for a couple of years. You know that. I picked them last year, to go to the AFC Championship game. This year, picked them to win the division. They're starting to put things together. Sean Watson with another year. He's one of those guys. He's the real deal for sure. So, it's the AFC. So, I'm certain Kansas City will make the playoffs. Pretty certain they're going to win their division still. It's just a matter of who's going to get that bye, along with the Patriots right now. So, but no, they're fine. If they were in the NFC, you'd have a little bit more trouble, right?
Yeah. Well, they got the Raiders coming up on their heels, 3-2. Watch out for the Raiders.
Well, they got a big one Thursday night in Denver, which Denver started to, wake up a little bit. So, they better not sleep on this one Thursday night, another division game, or a division game, I should say, in Denver. That's never an easy place to play, no matter, how good Denver is. They've been playing a lot better. So,
well, they're at Denver, and then they're home to Green Bay, and they're home to Minnesota. Theoretically, they could be 4-5 in 3 weeks' time, potentially.
Well,
how surprising would that be for a storyline in week 9?
Yeah, well, for sure. You never know.
You never know for sure. So, all right. So we'll move along off of that game, and we will move along and let Bladesy bring us up to snuff on what I thought in my career of watching the National Football League or CFL, whatever. That was about one of the worst officiated games I ever saw. And you know what? You've always been a bit of a, kind of a non-fan of Aaron Rodgers over the years. And I always thought you were being a little too rough on him and things. And he didn't do anything particular to piss me off with him. But this last night, it was almost like, what is the NFL so desperate to replace, to unseat Brady as the marquee of their league, that they're doing anything they can. 4 botched calls. 4. How bad is that?
It was bad, Duke. I mean, that was a good game, right? It was I mean, I think the NFC Central, or what is it, Central North, whatever they're called now. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, sorry. Sorry, I thought I was froze up again. That's definitely the best, top to bottom, best division in football right now. I mean, all 4 teams are over 500 going into this week. Green Bay, Minnesota, Chicago, and Detroit, right? So, I mean, that was a marquee matchup last night. Detroit came out there firing, flea flicker right off the bat, like 50 yards to Galladay. They stall and have to kick a field goal, but the next Stafford, they finally let him throw a little bit, and he's getting the job done there. But they were up 13-0, thinking looked like they were gonna put the Packers to bed early, but of course Aaron Rodgers is Aaron Rodgers still. But like you said, in most of those calls, that second half was just atrocious. And you know me, I'm not going to be bitching at officials no matter what the sport.
No.
But I mean, first of all, there was a pass interference that they didn't call on. I think the wide receiver's name was. Oh no, it was Marvin Jones. I think the guy just got clotheslined. I don't know the timeline, which happened first or last or whatever, but that was that one, and then there was the 2 phantom hands to the face on Trey Flowers that kept drives alive. When the Packers were down. First of all, when the Packers were down 9, with about 10 minutes left, third and whatever it was, 10, and Rodgers gets sacked, and they call hands to the face. That was, it was up there, but it was definitely on the shoulder pad. Kept that drive alive. They scored a touchdown, and then it happened again on the last couple of plays that sealed the game. Trey Flowers had never had a hands to the face penalty in his entire career, and they throw 2 on him, in the last 10 minutes of that game. If that would have happened, if the Patriots were that team that got that, Duke, we'd still be hearing about it. That Brady called the call. So, but it's just, it's a shame that it happened that way. I mean, devil's advocate, the Lions had chances. Obviously, they had chances. They had the ball deep. They had 5 field goals. A couple of them were over 50 yards. So it's not like they were that deep on those ones. Prater had a great game. But it's too bad. I mean, it just seems like it happens to the Lions all the time. Even they, a lot of times they're a bad team, but even now that they look like they've got some stuff going for them, and then they get calls against them like that. That would have been a huge game on a Monday night game in Lambeau for sure. But that's the way she goes, and I guess they just have to move forward, kind of thing. But it is a shame.
Well, that's all Trey Flowers. When they interviewed him after the game, they were just saying, what you're thinking, and he's just like, work, just got to keep working. And you could tell that was his way of dealing with how Pitt, and he was the last guy, didn't even have his pads on and stuff, so definitely was not happy. Mac, you want to chime in on there?
Well, it's the first game, too. I watched more of it than I thought I was going to, that Patricia didn't really, he's been blamed so often in the other games. I didn't really see any mistakes he made.
Yeah,
kind of had a clean game for him, which is good for the Detroit team. He needs more.
And you know what? I mean, they like to be punching bags. Patricia and Bill O'Brien especially, and how they came off the Belichick coaching tree, and they both kind of are boneheads sometimes. But I mean, we've just gone and said, Houston's having a great year. Detroit's having, only 2-2-1, but they could be, like I say, 4-1. They're getting the job done with those teams, so they still are probably boneheads once in a while, but they got it going in the right direction.
Yeah, for sure. The other thing, take away from that I was, listening to some of the other YouTube channels and stuff like that, and the thing that came up was about Matt Stafford, and why is it that guy can't go any higher than what he seems to be going? Him and Andy Dalton seem to be one of the same thing. You look at Brady, he deals with his situation that he has to deal with. You look at Russell Wilson, he's lost receivers and stuff. He still figures it out. Even Aaron Rodgers, who's lost what he's lost, and he's still figuring it out. What do you suppose it is about with Stafford that he just can't? Is there such a thing as the it factor? Does that exist with these quarterbacks? Because this guy, it seems like there's moments you think he's ready to really finally break through for a while, and he just doesn't get it done. Any thoughts on that?
Mac, you got any?
No, not really. That's what separates the greats from the rest.
Yeah.
As stupid as the cliche is, some players make those around them better, and some do better because of the players around them. I give Stafford a little more than Dalton, but he seems to be more like Rogers. As much as I'm not a fan sometimes, look at the guys he's throwing to last night, still leading them out. There are certain quarterbacks that can do it. I think with the three of us out there. And God knows we've played well in that Clark's Harbor ball field many a toilet bowl game, but some quarterbacks can make us look good, and others we wouldn't see the ball.
But I will say, old Aaron Rodgers, he got his guy killed last night on that throw to Alice. I mean, man, he's lucky he didn't get his head taken off. He got knocked out of the game. But that's on Rodgers. I'm sorry. He's throwing that ball. He sees that safety there, and he just freaking leads him into him. And he's lucky he didn't get hurt worse. I don't know. It didn't look good for sure.
And I know I'm not a fan, and it's partly because I'm a Brady guy, but did they show Rodgers' facial expression after every single pass? It seems to me like maybe they do it to other quarterbacks too, but every single pass you see him with that disgusted, sourpuss look. It's like, oh my God, show me anything else. Show me the vendor and the cheat sheets. I don't need to see Aaron Rodgers look like he's disappointed again that somebody else has made the mistake, not him. He's like, oh.
I heard somebody say, I can't remember who it was now, it was like, if you had the over 7.5 on eye rolls, on Aaron Rodgers, you were good after the first half.
Oh my God.
They did pop a few, don't get me wrong, but still, holy crap, And they talk about Brady, of course, that he's yelling at people. Like, at least he yells at people. You don't do the old eye roll. He's not passive aggressive about it.
No. So anyway, we'll move along into best of the rest, aside from the games that we clearly watched, the Patriots, Chiefs, and the Cowboys game, Niners. We followed those. Out of the other games, gentlemen, was there anything that kind of stood out to you? Can we finally lay to rest this idiocy thinking that the Dallas Cowboys are a Super Bowl contender? They got beat by the 0-4, your New York Jets. How surprised, Bladesy, was you at the Cowboys getting beat in New York?
Well, it's funny because I was down home at Dad's, and Brandon was there, and Brandon had 2 or 3 parlay tickets, and if the Cowboys would have won by more than 7, I think he was going to win a couple $100. So he was not very happy, the way that was going. But like I said, the Jets team is different with Sam Darnold. You got to give him credit there. You know what? They played a good game week 1. Against the Bills and should have won that one. I would say week 2 he was probably starting to feel the mono coming on, or however that works. I don't know, never had mono, but I can't imagine it's good. And they've just been a shit show since. But he came right in there and picked up where he left off. And no, I think Dallas obviously was fortunate to have an easy schedule, first 3 games obviously. But you know what, the Jets showed me a little something there. So. Not worried about next Monday night's game, but definitely a little bit more concerned than it was a week or 2 ago. But now I'm not really surprised. Dallas doing Dallas things. But funny thing is, they're tied for the division lead. Philadelphia's not playing well, and then they got the Giants and Redskins in their division. So another shitty division.
Yeah, they got time to turn it around. Jason Garrett definitely has pictures of Jerry Jones doing something. Because the fact that he's still got a job. We've been
10 years.
Poor cousin Sal. I know we plugged the Bill Simmons podcast on here, but poor cousin Sal, he just can
Is he a big Dallas fan?
Oh yeah, he's a big Dallas fan. The clapper.
The clapper. Well, speaking of don't know how somebody's holding on to his job, there is talk of Freddie Kitchens, people wanting Freddie Kitchens to be fired. I don't know what's going on with Freddie Kitchens, but I don't think you can be firing coaches all the time. What did I hear? He's like the third one in 4 years, the sixth one in 7 years that they've had in Cleveland.
Well, I got to risk some Bill Simmons content again, but I can't remember if it was Bill or cousin Sal said they believe that Freddie Kitchens isn't a real football coach. He's just some factory worker that they put on the sidelines to see how far they can go with him pretending to be an NFL coach. So I was tears rolling down my eyes listening to that one because
They may not be
like, yeah, I know clearly the guy has spent a lifetime in football, but the poor Browns, after an off season of hope, this is pretty much going about the worst way that they possibly could for them.
Yeah. Yep, and what's his name? Baker Mayfield. He is being brought down notch by notch off the high horse that he seems to have built for himself. It's a shame because the kid does have talent, and they've done their best to try to put some people around him. I mean, they got good weapons there. Can you imagine with Brady, with Chubb, and Landry, and Beckham? Oh my goodness, what a field day that they'd be having.
You say that's a shame. That's all on Baker Mayfield, man. He's the one that propped himself up like that. You know what? Should have done something before he started mouthing off. And
OBJ made another amazing catch, too. He had another highlight reel catch on Sunday. Beckham did.
Yeah.
Check that out.
Anything else from any of the other games you guys want to make mention of?
I think the only other thing I thought of was another tight end trying to hurdle somebody, and that was Andrews and
man, you gotta stop doing that.
Yeah, and he ended up losing the ball. I think hopefully that puts an end to this whole I can hurdle the guy next type of thing. But no, 62-yard field goal. Is that the Dallas game? I thought that was.
Yeah.
I always like the long field goals, but no. Bring on week 7. Bring on the Jets.
Well, I think also you'll probably have this in your top 5 here rankings, but I mean New Orleans still chugging along. You know, with Teddy Bridgewater under center, I think that's quite an accomplishment. I mean, you know, he didn't score a whole lot of points, but you know, they another one that got the job done. They went in Jacksonville and actually were an underdog, slight underdog there, and did it. So, you know. Yeah, another thing, and this will be the last time I'll say T-Mac will pull another Bill Simmons, but I was thinking the exact same thing, that if Brady got hurt for 4 weeks and somebody like Teddy Bridgewater went in there and won 4 straight games, everybody would be saying, see, it's the system. It's not Brady, it's the system. But you don't hear about that when it comes to Sean Payton and Drew Brees. But, it's just some of these things that we've got to deal with. But, you know what, the Saints are they're definitely showing, I think that even, yes, 49ers are 5-0, I understand, but you know what? They got the same amount of wins as New Orleans, so you believe New Orleans. You know what? They're going to be the team to beat. I mean, Breeze comes back here, healthy. Look out for those guys.
Right on. Well, one last thing. No, go ahead, Matt.
Sorry, I did want to mention the Dolphins, the team that goes for 2 to give their fans hope like they're really trying, and then runs the play that even if the poor guy had caught it, he would have been tackled by 4 guys. I don't know if that's worse for the fans or better, but they say, hey, we're not going to go winless, we're going to try to win, and then we're going to call a play that will never work.
Oh, my God, that was terrible. That was hilarious. Yeah, that was definitely tanking at its finest right there.
Well, one last thing I will bring up for best of the rest, because one of our faithful viewers, Mr. Michael Link, messaged us to say we're not showing any Philadelphia Eagles love. And so what does the Eagles do the next game after he says that? They squander it in Minnesota. And nonetheless, what's helping Philadelphia is that they do play in the NFC East, tied for first with the Dolphins. The Cowboys, Dallas Cowboys, excuse me. Peterson, coach, he is assuring a win in Dallas next week. Would you feel good about him saying that if you're one of his players? I'll take that laugh to be.
I don't know, man. They both shitty.
When Wentz left after that one bad series and took his helmet, sometimes I'm amazed at how much shit kicking those helmets can take. Because he took that helmet and slammed it as hard as possible. And they lifted back up like, man, that's what I should be wearing in the goal crease, not a goalie mask. But and speaking of Michael Link, with 2 minutes left in the first period, his Habs on a power play goal by Jeff Petrie, assisted by Time Domi, taking a 1-0 lead over the Tampa Bay Lightning. Back to you, Duke and Edward.
Fair enough. All right, so we're going to conclude our football segment with our top 5 rankings, and this week is my turn to provide the entertainment. At number 1, still no surprise, no reason to make any changes there. New England holding down the number 1 spot. I would say, though, if a loss was to come in the next few weeks, definitely would make for an entertaining discussion with the number 2 pick that I have this week, which has kind of been there a couple of weeks. T-Mac had him last week. That is the New Orleans Saints, 5-1, just cruising right along with or without Drew Brees. Bridgewater definitely making a case for himself for a starting job somewhere, if maybe next year or whenever his contract is up in New Orleans. Maybe they want to hold on to him in New Orleans. I mean, Brees isn't young anymore, and suffering an injury this year. Who knows what that means? Has he become injury prone now? You got a guy now that seems to be running the system, pretty good himself. He's not Brees. That's not overstate it, but doing a great job there. So I took the Saints at number 2. At number 3, making their debut on the power rankings amongst any of us, I had to finally give in and give it to the 49ers at 5-0. I'm sorry. I think the test they had to meet was this past weekend in Los Angeles against the Rams, even though the Rams are having their own issues in that. It was a game that was important to the 49ers to kind of, prop up the hype that's been coming with them. And they went in and they got the job done. And, I think right now they're definitely a team to be reckoned with in the NFC. Aside from, from the Saints, I don't see anybody else that's, any further ahead of them right now. And if you ask me today, I would say them in the Saints in the NFC Championship game if it ended today, and they look good at 5-1. So I'll take them off number 3. Number 4, I chose to go with the Seattle Seahawks for number 4. They're at 5-1 as well. Russell Wilson, he's having one of those potentially, MVP type seasons. Injuries have occurred with Seattle as well, but he's just playing really well. The defense is playing well, picking up the Clowney guy from Houston is definitely making their defense stronger and stronger. Got the win on the road in Cleveland, despite Cleveland having issues themselves and not really living up to the hype they've had. They still are a force to be reckoned with when they play at home and against that dog-pound crowd. And Seattle went in there, kept their cool, and was able to come out with a W. So because of that, I felt they deserved to have number 4. Number 5 on the rankings, I wasn't going to do it. If it would have been last night and I was putting this thing together, they wouldn't have been there because I was so pissed off with how that game went last night. But you got to use calmer heads when you're putting these things together. And there's an argument for these guys to be moved up. I understand that, and that's the Green Bay Packers, 5-1, leading the NFC North. Maybe they would have won that game anyway. They might have found ways to win it without the poor officiating, but they're still 5-1. And Rodgers has them guys rolling pretty decent. I can't see them not making the playoffs of some sort. And right now, even though I had Chicago winning the division, I kind of right now thinking, Rodgers is doing enough that they're probably going to be the team to beat now in the NFC North. So, gentlemen, that is my rankings for the week. Open her up. Any opinions? Any changes you would have if that was you? Go ahead, Blasey.
No, actually, I think that's pretty good. Pretty good top 5 there, Duke. I think definitely the top 4. I have to agree with you. And 5, I think, because I had the Packers in my top 5 last week, I would have to keep them there. I think the Texans would have, after beating the Chiefs, in Kansas City. I think they would have they would probably be number 6 for me. That'd be pretty close. But no, I hate to say it, but I can't argue with you on this one, Duke. We'll go with that. I will say, though, since I got the floor, I just saw something pop up. It looks like Jalen Ramsey's going to be traded. Go ahead, T-Mac. I'll let you go.
Scooped by Blades again. We were talking, I can't remember, it was on air before the show, about how the Rams had put Aqib Talib on IR and traded Marcus Peters. Lo and behold, there was a reason for it, because they now have Jalen Ramsey from the Jacksonville Jaguars for our first pick next year, a first pick the following year, and a fourth rounder as well. So I guess the Rams did have a plan, and replacing Marcus Peters by Jalen Ramsey. It was a huge upgrade. It cost them, but if you're the Rams and you're expecting to be picking in the 20s to 30s, 2 first-round picks in the 20s and 30s for Jalen Ramsey is probably good business. So sorry to yell at you there, Bladesy. I saw you look over to the side, and I said, that bastard knows about it. He knows, and he's going to scoop me.
Well, getting back to the point at hand.
I'm the same with the power poll. I had the Texans number 5 last week, so I would have them number 5 again, but the Packers would likely be number 6. So I'm very similar to what Duke did.
Okay, fair enough, gentlemen. All right, guys, that concludes our... Anything else? Nope. Okay, so that concludes us for this week with the NFL Week 6 in the books. And as Max said, let's get headed to week number 7. So, gentlemen, we are at that point in the season of the Major League Baseball that we are in the League Championship Series. NLCS, Cardinals, Nationals, the Nats are up 3-0. Only question I got about this, only one team in the history of Major League Baseball has ever been able to overcome a 3-0 deficit, and we all know who that is. Mac, do you see any reason why the Cardinals could be the second team in baseball history to overcome an 0-3 deficit in the playoffs?
No. When Anibal Sanchez threw 8 1/3 of magnificent ball, I think right then as a Cardinals fan, you're thinking, because you've got Scherzer and Strasburg coming right after them. So no, I don't think if I'm Washington, I want to get it over with now. Patrick Corbin, go out. You can deal with some of his wildness, and they're done. And then have time to rest. Get your lineup in place. I thought the Astros would beat the Yankees in 3. I guess that's not going to happen. So the Nationals should be able to win out and have a break, and then get everything in order for what's to come.
Right on. Well, Blasey, as we know, the Red Sox did pull off that trick back in 2004. Here's a question I will ask. What was it about that 2004 crowd? What did they have, do you think, that helped them to be able to overcome that? And do you see any of that in this Cardinal group that you've seen so far?
Well, obviously looking back on it, we can look at some characters like guys like Kevin Millar, obviously Big Papi, but guys like Kevin Millar I think that was the key to that Red Sox team. I mean, the year before it was the Cowboy Up group, pretty much, came right down to the last pitch of the year or of the ALCS, and then they turned it around the next year. We know what happened there. But I think you need guys like that. You look back on that 4 Days in October documentary. They're talking to Millar, and just saying, we got them right where we want them when they're down 0-3 or whatever. So, we can laugh about it now, because at that point we were pretty much after 19 when we were down 19-8 in Game 3, go down 3-0. It was not looking very good, Duke. So, for anybody to say they can predict this to happen, it doesn't happen. But I'm with T-Mac, and I mean, it's not, not going out on a limb or anything, but just because of the starting pitching that Washington has, Like that's why we picked them to start with. All three of us picked them at the start of this series because of their starting pitching, and they haven't done anything to prove us wrong. That's for sure. And I mean, like I say, with Corbin tonight, and then even if they got by Sanchez the next game, you still got to go against Scherzer and Strasburg on full rest. I can't imagine climbing that hill. I don't care who you are.
Yeah. No, I don't have that feeling either, that there's something magical in the water all of a sudden for St. Louis. Like I think we discussed in the last episode that we had when we were looking at these series, things are just happening right for Washington. Just everything you need to have happen is happening for them, and timely hitting, getting the pitching that they need, especially from the starters, which is their bread and butter, and things just falling that way, it seems like. So no, I don't see that happening either for St. Louis. But that's the great thing about sports, is that you still have to play the games. They're not going to give you the series. You got to play it out. So it definitely would be a huge surprise, like 04 was. Like you said, nobody predicted that. I don't care what anybody tells me. You might have thought in your heart of hearts, geez, it'd be great if they could do it. I think they can do it. No, I think deep down you thought, fuck, we're screwed again for another year. But you know what? The guys that needed to feel differently did in that year, and thankfully for us in Boston, it worked out pretty freaking good. So anyway, that series looked like it is going to end in the next, if not tonight, probably tomorrow night for sure. So we'll move over to the American League, and the game that's going on right now. Last time I looked, we had a 4-0 Astros lead. Has that changed at all? Anybody watching there?
Yeah, 4-1. We got 2 outs in the bottom of the ninth.
And Roberto Osuna is throwing 99. He used to top out at 95, 96. So if he's throwing 99, that's good for the Astros.
I mean, Garrett Cole was, he topped 100 a couple times today. It's like, holy frig, man, what are these guys doing?
Yeah. I picked. I don't know why I did. I thought, I thought the Yankees would take this one in 5. I just thought it was going to be a crazy year, but lo and behold, they win the first game, and I thought, holy shoot, maybe I'm going to hit gold again here, and of course they don't.
Possible now, Duke. It's official.
Official. No Yankees in 5.
No.
Anyway.
That's okay, Duke. I didn't get Houston in 3 either, so we both lost.
There you go. Okay, so I want to switch gears with the baseball discussion. I want to talk about last week where Clayton Kershaw came in from relief. And so the headline on our board right now says, "Why Kershaw, Dave Roberts?" Are either of you were you surprised Kershaw was brought into that situation last week in Game 5? Did you think that Buehler should have maybe gone a bit more? Because he's now their horse of that staff. He still looked like he had something in the tank. Do you go to the bullpen? Did Dave Roberts make the one move that he shouldn't have made based on how he managed all year? Mac, I'll let you go first.
10 years ago, I would have been totally surprised, but the way baseball is played now, there are so many things that aren't the way we would have been used to them growing up. I mean, I too thought Buehler could have done more, but I think they looked and saw the batters coming up and thought Kershaw would be the best guy to face them, and struck out that first guy. I think, and if he'd done what Roberts wanted him to do, nobody's saying anything about it. The fact that he gave up back-to-back home runs was, I mean, Roberts, I don't care which manager, Felipe Alou, my beloved Expos manager, none of them, when they make that move, is going to think that in any situation they're going to give up back-to-back home runs. So, I mean, Roberts has a lot to be criticized for. I don't know that was the most egregious of the moves he made. Feel bad for Kershaw because he seems like a class guy and has been one hell of a pitcher, but he has certainly not delivered in the postseason like he has in the regular season.
Right. So, Blasey, do you advocate to this theory? Your guy, you're going with your guy, regardless of what the numbers has told you. We live in the analytical age. This is how most of these managers go. He went all year like that to 106 wins, and then at the most crucial moment, he decides to go with his gut instinct. Doing that, does he not make the case that baseball clearly has to be done from an analytical point of view? What do you think about that?
Well, I don't think there's a cut and dry answer, dude. Sometimes the analytics work, sometimes your gut works. I mean, they're paying this guy for a reason. They're not paying him to be a computer programmer. They're paying him to manage the team, and he thought that was the best move. And, Kershaw came in there. I would have thought coming in, bringing a starter in the middle of the inning would have been the problem. Obviously he was going up against the lefty Eaton, I think it was, and with a couple guys on, and he made a couple of awesome pitches that, Eaton didn't have a chance on. So, I mean, he looked awesome there. Brought him back out for the eighth. I didn't have an issue with it. He threw two meatballs up there and see what happened. But I personally don't, if Kershaw would have got the job done, nobody would have said anything. It wouldn't have been an issue about analytics or anything like that. I mean, it's hindsight's 2020, like it always is. I had more of an issue of him going with Joe Kelly two innings when he hadn't done that, I don't think, all year. He pitched well in the ninth, I think it was, and then in the 10th or whatever it was, 10th, 11th. And then he came back out there and got in trouble, and the rest is history. But I personally got no problem with him going out with Kershaw. I mean, it was a do or die game. You went with your best pitcher that you have in that bullpen. You should Walker Buehler is their ace now, but Kershaw is definitely the next man up for sure. He went with his best pitcher and he got beat.
Yeah. There was an interesting thing I heard, and I brought it up to you guys before we went on air. Back in the 60s, and Bob Gibson, legendary Hall of Fame Bob Gibson, one of the hardest, meanest throwers ever in the history of baseball. That guy in 3 World Series in the 1960s pitched 3 games, and every game was either 7 or 8 innings. And it just goes to show you how much the game where pitching is concerned, it's not something that's surprising to anybody. But when you hear stories of guys like Gibson and Ryan, like you look at a guy like Buehler, who he is a horse. Like his game last year against the Red Sox was unbelievable, one of the best I've ever seen pitched. And then he was looking pretty good, still looking strong in this game against Washington and stuff. So part of me wonders, should he have maybe gone? But you know what? We're talking about one of the great pitchers, if not the greatest pitcher of this generation, in Clayton Kershaw. And he's kind of, David Price. We all know the story of David Price and how his travels in postseason have just never been really good until last year. He finally, we had to tip our cap to him. And truth be told, he's the reason why we won the world. He was one of the main reasons we won a world championship last year. Here's Zach Greinke this year. Not pitching very, very well, but yet, would you have Zach Greinke in a clutch situation? Would you want him? Definitely. He's proven, his track record has proven enough that you would want him. So it's a tough call. But I think Roberts did what he felt was, if he was going to go down, he was going down with his guy. And I think he can live with it. And you know what? I think the ownership is living with it because Roberts is coming back again next year. So if they really thought that was a bonehead move, then they wouldn't have brought him back next year.
These dudes, that'd be awful tough to get rid of a guy that's taking you to
I know
2 straight World Series, won 106 games just because you shouldn't have kept Kershaw in for an extra pitch. That would have been rough. But stranger things have happened, I suppose.
Yeah. Well, it seems like in baseball there's a push now to get payroll down and bring in just crazy things are going on in the game of baseball, and the way changes and stuff seem to be coming about. So nothing clearly would surprise me any further. So anyway, we'll conclude that with our baseball. By the time we come here next week, we could be talking about a World Series. Who's going to be in that? But we will wait and see. So we're going to finish off our show with the National Hockey League. It is early days in the NHL, But, T-Mac, there's some early surprises going on as we look at the standings. So the Hurricanes, the Avs, the Sabres, and the Oilers all seem to be teams of note. I will say, though, I think with the Avs, I think Bladesy might have predicted them to win the division. Central Division.
Whoa! Predicted them to go to the Stanley Cup. Thank you very much.
Okay. But they have come out to a win. Like they have no losses so far. The Canes, I think we all thought was another possible playoff team, but they're in first place in their division. The biggest surprise, I think, is more Buffalo and the Oilers. Oilers did suffer their first loss last night, and tried to tell a couple of people last night what it was, but they wouldn't listen to me. Buffalo surprisingly as well. So of that group, Mackenzie, what do you think? You see obviously two going forward and the other two just off to a good start, or what do you think? Is it real in Edmonton and Buffalo?
I think so. Let your fellow Edmontonians enjoy themselves, Duke. Don't rob them of that. And living close to the Sabres and getting some of their media, they I think may have been a coach away from, like Phil Housley was not a coach. The guy they had before that was not a great coach. Kruger was a guy. They've got a guy that is loved in the hockey community now, and they've got forwards up front. The GM Botterill has built a nice defensive core. The fact that they're looking to trade Rick Salainen, who is a good veteran defenseman most teams would want to have, and their goaltenders are giving them good to really good goaltending. So Jack Eichel's a stud. How he hasn't scored 30 goals yet, I have no idea. Jeff Skinner they locked him up. He's a 40-goal guy. The Sabres are good. The Oilers are good. I don't know. The Oilers, like McDavid and some of those forwards are too good for that team not to have done better. So I think they're just finally achieving where they probably should have been. The Hurricanes are the one that surprised me. Maybe I just don't know the team well enough. They seem to have nothing really great in net, and other than Aho, a Montreal Canadiens like forward group, a good defense. So maybe the defense is like the Blues showed is enough. But no, I'm okay with all four of those teams.
Right. Well, Rod Brindamore certainly, when he became coach of it, brought a different culture to the Canes, and we all know his playing days, very gritty, hard-nosed player, and he seems to be, as much as it can be hard-nosed in the NHL today, he seems to be having them. And they also had just traded Justin Falk, one of their prime defensemen, to the Blues just before the start of the season. So I would share that sentiment. A little surprising that they're out to the start that they are. So Blasey, I know you're not following the NHL as closely as maybe the other two are. I know you don't really get into it till after the Super Bowl and stuff like that. But the Bruins had a real good road trip starting their season, come out of it 3-1, and have now won 2 games at home. Struggled for some offense initially, and that's kind of where their goaltending has really been living up to its expectations and stuff. So what are you thinking about with the Bruins right now? Everything looking good for another division run, you think, this year?
Well, it's definitely been a nice little surprise to start off, Duke. I mean, West Coast swings, I don't care, started the season or not, Yeah, those are always a little bit crazy. You never know what's going to happen, but it's probably good to get that one out of the way. I'm sure they got another one coming out. They can get everybody, but the only game they lost was against the Avalanche. Obviously, the Avalanche are starting off red hot. But yeah, you say it was a goaltending, but it's not just Rask. It's Halak. He's got the family youth or something. So, which is, I think this is huge. If we can trust him to play a little bit more and try to keep it a little bit more balanced, I think that will help you in April, May, when playoff time comes. Keep those goalies a little bit more, a little bit fresh. But yeah, I watched a little bit of yesterday's game. Actually, Pasternak was a nice little. Four-goal performance there. So, but yeah, like you said, I won't take up too much time. I'm not really into hockey yet, but we'll keep an eye on it just for you, Duke.
Well, you got to for fantasy purposes, and you bugger,
That's
popped
true.
up and took friggin' Pasternak in our CFC draft.
I wasn't even going to bring it up, Duke. I wasn't even going to bring it up. But
Good call, good call. And I probably could have done. No, did you pick before me or after me? I think before, did you?
I can't remember.
I don't think
I think
would
you
have
did
had
pick
chance
before.
at him. Well, I ended up with some dud down there in Dallas. The guy named Tyler Sagan. Speaking of which, though we have some early surprises going on in the NHL, there obviously are some disappointments, some concerns, I would say, more than disappointments. So some early concerns. I have Tampa Bay, Dallas, and the New Jersey Devils listed. Mac, what's happening in Tampa Bay? Seems like since Columbus put them on their ass last year, things have just continued to spiral down. I mean, it's not a horrible start, but it's not the start that I think we thought Tampa Bay was going to be. They're dragging a bit. What do you hear happening in Tampa Bay? Is Cooper a bit of an issue? I have seen some rumblings of wanting them to get rid of their coach, Cooper, by the players. Is there any truth to this?
I really don't want to talk about Tampa Bay. They've scored 3 unanswered goals on my Habs here tonight, so I'm going to skip over the Tampa Bay Lightning. They seem to be just fine. The Devils are the team that surprised me. I thought with their moves, they seem to make some really nice adds. Subban to shore up the defense. And the fact that they haven't won yet, even won a game, they're the biggest surprise to me. The Lightning will be fine. The Stars are too deep, and there's enough bad teams in the West that they should be fine. The Devils are the team that I think are the big surprising slow starter. Let's just not talk about the Lightning anymore, okay?
Well, your Habs are kind of in between there. They're kind of sitting, 2 and what are they? 2 and 2, 2 and 1, or something like that.
2-1 and 2, 2-1 and 2,
2-1 and 2.
2-1 and 2.
They'll be 2-2 and 2 after tonight. So.
Yeah, the forwards have been good. Carey Price has been really good. The defense has been not good. We've given up almost 35 shots a game. The power play that was historically bad last year is off to a good start. It's just they're giving up way too many scoring chances, and outside of Weber and Petrie, they haven't decided on the other, especially the bottom 3. They have to figure that out. But there's a lot of depth in scoring. Just I don't want to talk about tonight.
So they're into Game 6 right now. Has Price played all 6, or has Kincaid made his debut yet with him?
Yeah, Kincaid played a game that they lost in a shootout. Lost to Buffalo in overtime.
Oh, okay, all right. Well, they might want to think about getting him in there a bit more early on, because we know what happened when they tried to run the table with Price last year. 27 out of 29 starts. He's good, but I think he's getting older in the tooth now, and those kind of workloads.
You brought that up twice in recent shows, and the stats go against what you're saying. Price was amazing down the stretch. He showed no signs. I mean, we didn't make the playoffs, so we didn't get to see if that was an impact. But I don't know. The goalie and me, the back-to-backs, giving them a night off here and there is fine, but when you don't have back-to-backs, I think you run your stud out as many times as you want.
Well, we'll keep our eyes in Boston, because that's where that is going on, the dual goaltending, and we'll see how the two team seasons parallel with your boy trying to run the gauntlet in Montreal. So, anyway, gentlemen, we have.
Wow.
Go ahead, Blazy. Oh, I think he froze up. We just.
No, I was just going to chime in and just say, I mean, Kincaid is a backup to Price. Halak's obviously a little probably better than he is, and they can put him out there a little more comfortably, and that's just my opinion. I could be wrong.
Well, you've never been wrong where hockey's concerned, Blazy.
No, I don't usually.
All right, gentlemen, we have put in an hour and 9 minutes on this one, so good job, good points on all 3 facets of what we covered tonight. Game 4 coming up here in a few minutes between the Cardinals and the Senators. So, Nationals, excuse me.
That's Saturday.
Yeah, and the Nationals. So, anyway, thank you everybody for watching tonight. Go ahead.
Duke, we can't go. I know we have to sometimes give sneak previews of future shows. and our gymnastics and ice skating preview isn't for 3 more weeks.
Okay.
But I just thought it was important that I pointed out that Simone Biles, I mean, I don't follow gymnastics worth anything, but what she has done.
Like you see these highlights of the stuff that she's doing, it boggles my mind. So I think we just have to point out that the Nadia Comaneci would have been the gymnast of our youth that we thought was the greatest ever, and I think Simone Biles has so recognized that, and the under 2 hour marathon, that first time that ever happened. A couple of sports highlights from those sports that we generally don't look at. So those are preview shows coming up. I know our track and field show in late January, and our figure skating gymnastics spectacular in early December when the NFL gets kind of slow. We'll see them there.
Well, we'll try to work that in around our NASCAR preview that we're going to do just before Daytona, and hopefully our NASCAR crowd won't get too offended when we try to work that into the place.
Yeah.
All right, gentlemen, thanks again for coming on. We will see you in 7 days when the Sunday Night Sports guys will reconvene. Everybody have yourselves a great night, and make lots of memories. Have a good one. Bye for now.